Dear learners, now I would like to explain an important topic from macroeconomics, that is theories of inflation. In earlier lesson, we discussed about the concept of inflation and different types of inflation, etc. As you know, a continuous rise in the price level or a persistent increase in the price level is called inflation. Regarding inflation, there are some theories. Now we will discuss it. If we observe this picture, we can understand the importance of economy and the relationship between inflation and economy. If inflation increases over a rate of or a minimum rate, it reflects or the effects of that inflation is huge on the economy. If you observe these three images, if inflation increases or the rate of inflation increases like this, the potentiality or the strength of the economy automatically decreases like this. So, inflation is a bad indicator to the economy. Now, once again, meaning of the inflation. Inflation is a rise in the general level of prices of goods and services in an economy over a period of time. That means it may be over a period of 1 month or over a period of 2 months or over a period of 6 months, like that. When the general price level rises or increases, each unit of currency buys few goods and services. That means the value of currency decreases while increasing the prices. Inflation is defined as a sustained increase in the price level and also are a fall in the value of money, as we discussed. Inflation is defined as a sustained increase in the price level or a fall in the value of money. Once again, I told you. So it is measured as a rate of percentage per unit of time, or it says a year or month, as I told you. When the level of currency of a country exceeds level of production and inflation occurs, where the size of the currency increases of a country, inflation automatically occurs because aggregate demand increases according to the increasing of the purchasing power. Where there is an increase in aggregate demand, automatically prices increases. And value of money depreciates with the occurrence of inflation. So these are the relationship between inflation and the value of money. There are some variations on inflation, or there are some concepts on inflation. Inflation, deflation, reflation, stagflation, like that. here, if you observe this diagram, this indicates inflation. The rise or the increase in the price level continuously is called inflation. Here, it shows stagnation. Stagnation means inflation with stagnation is called stagflation. Stagflation. Stagflation is a combination of inflation and stagnation. Stagnation means there is no change in output. Here, if you observe, there is no increase in the output, level of output. Here we can observe that the stage of deflation, it is the opposite to inflation, that is a decreasing rate of inflation. Again, deflation is when the general level of price is falling. This is the opposite of inflation. And hyperinflation, this term hyper means a rapid inflation, or the rate of increase in the price level is too much. That is, it is usually rapid inflation, and extreme cases, this can be lead to the breakdown of a nation's monetary system. And stagflation, as I said now, it is a combination of high unemployment and economic stagnation with inflation. And now, effects of inflation. What are the effects of inflation? Effects of inflation is very important in economics. Effects on investment and effects on interest rates. Inflation effects on exchange rates, that is mutual exchange, currency exchange between countries, and effect on unemployment, effect on stock exchanges, stock market stocks, and increase in the purchasing power. No, decrease in the purchasing power, where the money, where the rate of goods increases, the purchasing power automatically decreases. In other words, decreases the value of currency also decreases. And also change the allocation of income between different groups. And what are the causes of inflation? There are some factors or causes from demand side and also from supply side. From demand side, there are some factors, that is increase in money supply. If money supply increases, inflation automatically increases. And increase in money supply leads to increase in inflation, because where there is an increase in money supply, all the people having money, automatically their purchasing power also increases, and it leads to the aggregate demand increasing in aggregate demand. So that is the demand side factor. And the next one is increase in disposable income is also one of the cause for increasing inflation or inflation. Disposable income is the income by subtracting individual taxes from personal income. That is, personal income minus personal taxes or direct taxes is equal to disposable personal income or disposable income. This is the income which is absolutely control either consumption or saving of a particular individual. So this disposable income is equal to the consumption and saving. So if disposable income increases, automatically inflation occurs. And the next, deficit financing. Here deficit financing means revenue is less than expenditure. The difference between the revenue and expenditure can be met by deficit financing. The amount of deficit financing automatically distributes through budget policy in the economy. It leads to inflation. And foreign exchange reserves also one of the cause for inflation. If forex reserves increases, automatically inflation also occurs. Where the other side, supply factors. If you took supply factors, if rise in the administered prices, if the prices of factors of production rises, automatically inflation occurs. And also erratic agricultural growth, where there is a growth in agriculture, automatically the prices of agricultural goods and non-agricultural consumable goods also increases. And agricultural price policy also leads to inflation in supply side, from supply side. Agricultural price policy is took by the government, and this policy leads to increase the price of agricultural products. When there is a price increase in price agricultural products, agro-based products, automatically it is known as inflation. And inadequate industrial growth also one of the factors on supply side. If industrial growth is not as much as when compared to the other sectors, it leads to inflation. And now, causes of inflation. There are two types of inflation based on cause, that is demand pull inflation, and the next one is cost push inflation. Demand pull inflation. This theory can be summarized as too much money chasing too few goods. This is one definition of inflation, important definition. Too much money chasing too few goods. This usually occurs in growing economies like India. And the demand for goods and services increases and the production remains the same. See, production remains the same. There is no increase in production, level of production. But the demand, where there is an increase in demand, it leads to inflation. And excess demand results the price being called pulled up. That is demand pull inflation. We will observe with diagram also. And here demand pull inflation occurs where total demand for goods and services exceeds the total supply. Where there is an excess total demand, that leads to increase in the price of that particular goods and services. This type of inflation happens when there is an inflationary gap in the economy. If you observe this diagram, this is x-axis, which is real GDP on x-axis and prices on y-axis. This is y-axis. This is left to right downwards sloping curves, that is aggregate demand curve 1 and aggregate demand curve 2. This is aggregate supply curve, where there is an equilibrium, or where there is an intersect between aggregate demand and aggregate supply. In the first case, that is here the real GDP is Q1 and the prices, level of price is P1. If aggregate demand increases by demand pull inflation, or demand pull inflation leads to increase in aggregate demand from aggregate demand curve 1 to aggregate demand curve 2. By increasing, the aggregate supply is same. By increasing aggregate demand, prices also increases from P1 to P2. This rate of increase from P1 to P2 is called increase. And second one, cost push inflation. Cost push means the cost of factors of production, the cost of goods. If the cost of goods increases, automatically prices increases. So when companies' costs goes up gradually, they need to increase the prices to maintain their profits and also minimum profit margins. This is caused by increase in the cost of production. This is called cost push inflation. It increased cost to push up the prices level. Cost push inflation can result from change in aggregate supply. Demand pull inflation is caused or results from the change in aggregate demand, where the cost push inflation can result from change in aggregate supply. So the two main sources of change in aggregate supply are increase in wage rate and the prices of raw material. If the wage rates increases, automatically the cost of production also increases. In other words, in other case, if the prices of raw material or the cost of raw material increases, the value of output also increases. So it leads to inflation. So in this case, the cost push inflation can be understood with the help of this diagram. As usual, here aggregate demand is constant and aggregate supply changes in this cost push inflation. Here, aggregate demand and aggregate supply, one curve intersects here where there is a P1 price level and Q1 real GDP. Where there is an increase in aggregate supply, the aggregate supply curve shifts from supply 1 to supply 2, aggregate supply 2. With increasing the aggregate supply curve, price is also increasing from P1 to P2. So this leads to inflation. So this is aggregate cost push. This is known as cost push inflation. So these are the theories of inflation. In inflation class, we will discuss another topic in next class. Thank you.